You were saying it
Mm-hmm.
came to a time you didn't even have money to pay for your children's fare.
Yeah.
But so what happened?
Well, yeah. So when I graduated and decided to stay, the next thing was okay, how to make a living. There was an individual in my life who provided some sponsorship, but that person like had to. There were other things, so I kind of cut that person off, and it wasn't a major concern for me because I know how to work, and I think one of the things I do well is to build things, especially when it comes to organization. I do things for myself. I think I do better in that area than even working for people. So I decided to find a job because when you graduate, some of the conditions, I don't know for you and other places, but where I am, I was required to find a job within my field and expertise.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't go outside. So I couldn't look for jobs like dishwashing or any other kind of, you know, let's say unskilled job
Yeah.
after 1 year, 6 months.
Oh yes.
And I think with the 1 year, 6 months, when you get the 1 year, 6 months and you are searching for a job, you really want to learn a job as fast as possible because the time runs out. And for me, the clock started working on my visa before I even got it in my hands. I didn't know that, when you graduated, even if you had a valid student visa, you had to still go in and then swap that
Ah,
to
yeah.
get the job seekers visa. So
Yeah.
as of the time you graduated, it's like they start to count.
Yeah.
So I think it was 3 months down already into the 1 year, 6 months
Mm.
that you get to search for a job. Then we had COVID. So a lot of external things were already playing into, what was possible to happen for me. Then the language also was a big thing. I didn't come to stay. I only came to be, to stay for my studies in 2 years. That was just in long enough time for me. And I was going to go back. But then when something else developed that, was not planned, and I decided I was going to stay, I didn't have the language because I was not focused on learning the language. It was just like the basic things to say I've been to Germany. I know how to say hello and
Yeah.
maybe good afternoon and some of the basic things that was, just the elementary things that you need to know. So I didn't have the language, and it's a big requirement. It's the administrative language. Yeah, it's not like Berlin and other parts of Germany where English also, is used as part of the official languages. That I think is, yes, English and German, the two official languages, in the west of Germany. Yeah, so since I was struggling with the COVID and then the time was running out on my visa, I decided, okay, maybe I can partner with someone to build an organization because I'm not the only person, or I was not the only person at the time
Mhm.
that was struggling to find a job because they did not know the German language.
Yeah.
So yeah, so and I couldn't build because I didn't have the necessary qualifications to even start an organization. So I decided to partner with a fellow, someone that I met, before, and then also he runs a language school. He's one of the, I would say, relatively successful by the standards here, successful Africans. And he runs a language school. So I thought, okay, I can just partner with him and we can build something together. But then I was kicked out. you know, yeah, I was kicked out. Yeah, I was kicked out. So when I started looking for ways to kind of get myself more integrated and established financially, and that partnership going bad, I thought, okay, then let me start my own thing and do freelancing.
Mhm.
When I got into freelancing, I realized the visa I had was not a proper visa for me to continue working
The job
as a
situation.
freelancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the visa that I got when I started the initiative with this fellow that I talked about, I was able to get okay, so he kicked me, he kind of excluded me from the process of building the organization. So you won't see my name anywhere on the founders list.
Wow.
But he still offered me a project management role. And at the time I needed a job because I mean there was no other institution that was going to offer me English speaking job.
Yeah.
So I needed a job, and that job was able to give me visa for like 2.5 years. But the visa was tied to his institution.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was tied to his institution. So if I had to change it, either I had a new employer, then I had to go back to change that.
Yeah.
And if I was doing freelancing, I cannot have like I be an
That's
employee.
yes.
Yeah, because it was stated I was there as an employee, so I needed to change now. I was self-employed.
Yeah.
And that where the whole thing kind of shifted and started to go downhill for me.
Yeah.
I put in my application in August of 2022, and I mean, okay, the first thing they told me I was late. Well, I should have gone earlier to report that I no longer had a job, but it took a long time because when I lost the job July 1st, 2021, September, I was able to register as a freelancer, and then I started building from that point.
Yeah.
So by the time I got to April of 2022, I had gotten my first grant to start conducting workshops. And I also got myself into a training program to be a civic educator
Mhm.
here in Germany, working with immigrant children.
Mhm.
So when I submitted my application, okay, they brought that to my attention. I was late, but then they told me I needed to provide proof that I was earning and I was able to get a certified audit report of how much I had earned at the time for the
Mm.
6 months that I actually operated. And then the clerk at the immigration office told me, okay, we get back to you, send us this additional information. And I sent everything. And then the next one came by email that, this is COVID and I don't know when you're going to be able to get your visa. That
Mhm.
was the last email I got. And then I think 6 months, no, 3 months later, I got another email because I wrote asking if I could do a certain course because I wanted to know what was legally permissible for me to do.
Mhm.
And then they said, yes, I could do the course. But at the time, I was anticipating that, it would take maybe no more than 3 months because by law, the standard practice, from what I read, that it should take up to 3 months
Mhm.
within a reasonable time.
Mhm.
But with COVID, maybe it would take up to 5 months.
Yeah.
So I gave myself that window. But the 10th month, I was just home doing nothing. And I saw this opportunity to train in computer science and
Mhm.
decided to apply. But I just wanted to make sure what else I was allowed to do that. And he said, yes, you can go ahead and apply. I was rejected for that. But then it's still, okay, let me just wait to get my visa. But the story, it was not until 2024 that I finally got the visa. And probably I would have still been waiting if I had not spoken up,
Yeah.
to take action to say, that over a year I was unemployed
Yeah.
and then not getting any help from the job center because the job center was requiring that I get my new permit, which was stuck at the foreign office.
Mhm.
So either I got the permit or I got some proof from the former employer where I was no longer working. So I was just in this entanglement between the immigration office and the Burger Girl. And then when I decided also, okay, let me apply for the Kinder Girl because at least to help my children,
Yeah.
they also demanded the same thing the job office was requesting from me that I could not provide.
Yeah.
So in the end, I mean, I had to constantly beg people for help here and there. And that is not a sustainable way to live. And with two kids, Education here is free in the public school, but you still have to buy some materials. There are also school trips. The point is that I couldn't care for my kids the way they needed to be cared for.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really hard. It was really hard. Like sometimes they have events and they need to buy maybe a custom for, the program or some activity going on at the school, and they cannot go when they're planning school trips, and all of their classmates going to be going on a trip, that is the money is just not there. And if we even have to make the sacrifice, then it means that we are not going to be having certain things at home, you know. And it came to the point where the younger one had to walk to school, rain or shine, snow, she had to walk to school. And thank God that, the school is about 15 minutes away. Maybe, I mean, when I walk, they walk faster, so maybe it will be 10 minutes away. And for me, it's not the idea that she walked, the idea that she had to because she didn't have options. It's a different thing when you have options and you say, like, this is what I prefer to do. But when you have to do something because, you've been put in a situation where you're kind of restricted and you become like destitute, something like that. So for me, that was, yeah, we like living in real poverty in real time, that what it has been. And a lot of decisions and changes and things that we wanted in our lives that we have not been able to do. And that's gone to 9 years now. That's a very long time, for you to be in one place and not see progress.
Yeah. You said almost 9 years?
Yes, it come 2017. Well, okay, 2017 was when I came as a student. So if we remove the 2 years, just say, that's still a lot of time for you to be in one place, and with the apartment that I even moved in, when I was moving, my mindset was, oh, okay, I'm just starting off.
Yeah.
I didn't come to plant myself. Yeah. I'm starting off. So like it's humble beginning. So yes, the furniture that we met here, was what we kept and that what we have used. And, for all these years that we've been here, we haven't really changed anything. And anything that came in secondhand. And it's like, not me being arrogant, like, oh, you can use secondhand thing. For me, is that when you have that freedom to make choices and you choose to buy secondhand thing, that's fine. Versus when you are just forced and stuck in a particular situation and you don't have other options.
Yeah, I understand you. So one thing that I also read from your book was that due to these financial situations, you were not able to pay for your health insurance, right? So so the custom officers, they had to come and collect some of your stuff because you defaulted in the health insurance. Tell me all about it. And did your children experience it? How did you explain
Fortunately, they were in school when he came. It was one person. Fortunately, they were in school when he came. And I have been going back and forth with the insurance company, letting them know that I was unemployed, letting them know that I was trying to get funding from the job center, letting them know that my visa was stopped, process was stalled. And these are things I didn't have any control over.
Yes.
Yeah, and the insurance fees kept climbing. They escalated to the custom office, and I also communicated with them, letting them know what the situation was.
Yes.
Then one morning, the doorbell rang. And I thought, like, I didn't order for package or anything. Oh, you better order for stuff. Sometimes on Shein you will find something for €2, €10.
Yeah.
I really try to find a way to balance things for some sanity, especially for my kids, that they don't grow up with that mindset, like that kind of poverty mindset, like just so much lack in that you can't even afford to pay for something like as small as €2 or so like that. So we'll find a way sometimes, €5, €10, depending on how much I'm able to raise at a particular time and how much I'm able to spare to do other things. So just kind of keep the family like some kind of normalcy.
Yeah.
We kind of budget for normalcy in some way. So but and sometimes it will be letter, something like that, that people bring and you have to sign for it, or they bring the neighbor's package and and the neighbor maybe listed you to collect it. So I went down, and this man just walked past me, directed me to come upstairs with him. I think he did show me his ID card, and then stood at my apartment door. He knew where I was
Wow.
and told me, yeah, and told me to open the door. And I was confused, trying to figure out what to do. But then, because I'm not able to speak the German,
Yeah.
yeah, so, but he came in, looked around. I think he was even maybe very, apart from being angry that he wasted his time, that I couldn't even afford to pay him 30 euros, that he wanted me to pay for
Wow.
I think his fee or some, I had to pay
Mm.
some kind of fee, was the fact that there was nothing really here, for him to take. Nothing here for him to take. So
Wow.
he left. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did that make you feel?
Well, apart from, it's just like you reach a point where you're at your lowest and you
Yeah.
feel so vulnerable and violated. I think that's the feeling. And it's not just that one time. Many times you feel that. Many times because, you know, it's just the way, you get treated, and you're more like statistics than a human being, or something like something in this, that has some kind of number assigned to it. Yeah.
So some people may also ask the question. You may not be, if you are not comfortable with it, just don't answer. Some people are asking, what was the father doing? What was the father of your kids doing during this period? Why couldn't he support in any way? So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. So that is a very accurate question to ask. So the thing is, so my ex, we separated in 2006. 2006. Yeah, we separated in 2000. Like I was 5 months pregnant when I walked out of the house. And the thing is that he did what he could. And so sometimes when I say we had money, it would be because like maybe he was able to send. I don't want to go into amounts, but it was not enough to cover for his kid. And so now I want to be transparent. So my two daughters, they don't have the same father. I left, my ex when I was 5 months, worked. I had to leave because of what was going on in our relationship. I like to say some kind of marriage. And then I met my other daughter father, and things kind of fell apart because I was supposed to move to the US. I met him in the US and was supposed to move to the US, but then other things came about later on, so that relationship also fell apart. But I still kept the child. But then in his case, we're being out of touch. We're being out of touch, not because I wanted us to be out of touch. There were other things that happened that that I don't want to go into. So I just could not get in touch with him. Yeah, but my other ex, and those are the things that make you look like a bad woman, you have to, but anyway, but my other ex, yeah, we're in touch with him, and there were times when he would try. So like those times when we had something to put on the table, when we had something to do, in the house, was because but I was not, but because he was not responsible to take care of me. He was responsible to take care of his child. And so whatever he would send, for her, she was so kind that she would allow it to be used the way it was needed to be used, to be able to meet some of the needs, because she knew, that like how things, yeah, how things were.
Thank you for your sincerity. So I remember you also wrote something in the book that there was an issue and you were asked to fight your case in court. Yes. Let me just say that
Yeah.
most of us, like the immigrants that traveled in Germany, I heard of most people having receiving the yellow letters. The yellow letter is like you have a case in court, come and defend your case, or you pay off. Most of them pay
Mm.
off. So when I read your story that you fought in court, I was like, nah, you have to talk about it. So give us more details how it went about.
Yeah, so the good thing I didn't have the money, so the only thing I could do was fight. Because sometimes when you feel intimidated, by the system, not having that exposure,
Yeah.
you think the best thing to do would be to just settle and take the loss. But I'm one of the things I'm grateful to God for, that the work I did back home was able to open doors to not just meetings and policy discussion tables, but also training opportunities that I did training, in human rights and, and just working with, members of the legislatures members of the legislature back home, and the police,
Mm-hmm.
and then also covering beats, covering when I worked in the media a couple of times. I had to cover reports at the court. So I think that familiarity with the environment kind of positioned me, not to be so intimidated
Yeah.
when the yellow letter came.
Mm-hmm.
That even like definitely kind of scare you a little bit, but then
Oh, yes.
they regain composure, and mainly because of the language, mainly because of the
Yes.
language.
Yes.
But the other thing was that I had records.
Mm-hmm.
I kept records. That was something someone said in passing, and seriously, it helped me a lot, because when you have claims and you don't have evidence to prove,
Mm-hmm.
your case, that works against you. So I had the records, and then I could also clearly see it was very, very obvious in terms of what was being done. Like, for example, with the electricity company, that was not the first. Okay, let me go back and start with the first time I had to deal with the court. That was when I had this job that I talked about,
Mm-hmm.
the organization that I initiated and was kicked out of. When I was let go, the partner, what do they even call him, partner, or just call him the boss, refused to pay for the time that I worked. He said I didn't deserve any pay. I didn't bring in grants. I didn't do XYZ, but when I started working, I didn't have a computer. They only gave me a desk in a room. So I was using my own computer to even work. I didn't have like any kind of business email for me to do business officially on behalf of the organization. Like if I'm searching for grants, reaching out to donors and stuff like that, I couldn't do any of those things. I was limited in terms of what I could do. And when they let me go, we were already trying to look for funding.
Mm-hmm.
And and even before we came to the point of going to the court, when I tried to get some information from him, like do an exit interview, let me know, because everything seems to be going fine, apart from the fact that, I have this office and I don't have the tools to work, but I don't mind using my laptop. So if you can just let me know why you are terminating, and this was like on, I'd say unlimited. I forgot the word they called it in German, but it had no kind of, it was not a fixed contract that expired. So for you to just decide, one morning you walk in the office, you don't even give me the notice, like the proper procedure for dismissal was not even followed. And you tell me, I shouldn't work here anymore. And then you also refusing to pay my money. That just was just wrong. And I decided I was going to ask around and seek help to see how I could get justice.
Yeah.
And fortunately, at the time, I had written. I think initially when I was looking for a job, I came across an organization before deciding to do my own thing. After it was hard to find a job, and I decided to do my own thing, and looking for a partner to work with, I had come across several organizations. So there was one for women,
Mhm.
and I reached out to them. They couldn't handle, and then they refer me to an organization that deals with labor issues,
Mhm.
and I was able to get guidance from there. And they wanted to know whether I was willing to go to court, to escalate it. And they told me two things: that I was when I go to court, I could file for me to be rehired because it was wrongful dismissal, and I could file just to get my salary that was outstanding. And I decided to just choose the latter
Yeah.
instead of, yeah, because I didn't think it was a good environment for me to return to. The
Yeah.
first thing, doing the formation of the organization, I was excluded,
Mhm.
and then I start working, nothing is wrong, and
Mhm.
you just kick me out. I could go back and you could set me up and put me in trouble. That would be so. I
Yeah.
like I'll just take my money, and that was the first time I had to go to court. File a case.
Mhm.
The second time I had to go to court was when the electricity company, no, it was the telephone company that took me to court. So I had made this call thinking I was making the call in the WhatsApp app, but it
Mhm.
was a direct call.
Mhm.
And I mean, I had, I think, less than 200 in my account, and 100 and something was clear out. That was too much
Um,
money at the time,
yeah.
yeah. So I reversed the payment, and then I called the company to ask why they took that amount, because they should
Mhm.
have taken just 9.99 euros,
Mhm.
and they won't tell me why
Why?
they took the money.
Yeah.
So yeah, they won't tell me why they took the money. But I was like, if you can't not just take money, I don't see any kind of invoice or anything, and you are taking this amount of money. This is not
Yeah.
what you're supposed to take. You're supposed to take 9.99, and even that contract was forced into it. And yeah, I was forced into that contract, and for 2 years. I had to keep paying money that I didn't want to pay.
Wow.
But yeah, so. So when I reversed the payment, it was months later that I found out that I made a call to Ghana and to the US, and it was direct and not through WhatsApp as I thought, because I was using my daughter's phone, and I
Mhm.
didn't know how to use it, because I kind of transferring numbers from my phone to her phone
Mhm.
and made that mistake. So when I found out, by that time the amount had increased to, I think, 160 because of the fees they kept adding. And
Mm.
I said, okay, so I take responsibility. I'm going to pay, but I need to have a payment plan because I'm unemployed. I cannot afford to pay this money, the cash down in one payment. I can't afford to do that. And the lady I spoke with on the phone, she said, they're not going to give me a payment plan. At the time, it was even lower than that. She said they're not going to give me a payment plan. The amount just going to keep escalating or increasing until they cut my phone lines. That
Yeah.
was what she told me. I don't know what kind of solution was that, but eventually I was able to gather money to start paying, and even made the first payment, but the company still decided to, take legal actions. They went to a lawyer, and when I replied, the law office, I phoned the person that was responsible online and wrote to her directly, telling her the steps I had taken, and I had already paid over 50% of the amount as of the time I received her letter. And then I believe she saw it was reasonable. And so the company then wrote back to me and
Mhm.
said I could pay in installment,
Mhm.
but the details I didn't read was that I had to call them to confirm.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't read that. But
Mm.
I still took the action to pay in installment. And I had paid like almost all the money, and they decided to cut the line, cut the contract, were demanding over 200 and something, over 250 euros as some penalty for, I forgot the word the term is, some kind of legal thing they came up with, legal clause they put in the letter that is sent to me. But long and short of it, they got a company called, let's say it's a notorious company. But can I say that? She said maybe you can cut that. I don't know. I don't know if I can say that. I'm not afraid, but just maybe legally. But anyway, they got this company, and I sent all the documentation, letting the company know that I was paying the money. It was almost complete, and still they decided to pursue legal actions. And I think it was maybe 40 euros or so less, and they started even like changing documents and all that. So when they took the matter to court, I was able to provide all the proof and
Mm-hmm.
explain to the court that they changed the documents, that
Mm-hmm.
were the fresh documents that they had sent me to make their claims were not valid. And because I had kept all my documents, so I was able to provide all the documents and point out all the changes and things that they were doing, and protested. Yeah, I rejected the claim and said that, I didn't owe them any money. And that was the end of it. I didn't hear back from them again.
Okay.
Then the electricity company,
Mm.
they also decided to take me to court. The company, was it 2022 or 2021? I think the first time, I don't remember the dates offhand, but there was the first time they started taking money from me. The first time was 725 euros that they took my light for 4 days, even though I had paid for the current month. And it was some other claim that they made,
Mm-hmm.
and they had made a claim. How do I even explain it? So I decided to switch suppliers. This gentleman that I entered into the partnership with to start the nonprofit initiative that kicked me out of the company or the organization. While I was in school and we still had a very good relationship, advised that I switch my supplier, that he knew another company that, was very cheaper, very reasonable and fair. So, and I could pay like 30 euros less in electricity cost
Mm-hmm.
monthly. And I thought that was very attractive. So I decided to switch. But
Mm.
then when I met some other colleagues who explained something otherwise and said that it was the wrong idea.
So I want you
And
to also share your experience with your living situation. You wrote in the book that you felt like some people were stalking you and some issues surrounding your living area. Can you share more light on it?
yeah, well, I kind of changed that in the final book, in the final version of the book. I kind of changed that. I did use the word stalking, and because just from research and just the patterns that I see, I mean, why will my door be unlocked when I lock it before going to bed? And
Yes.
someone has a key to this apartment still.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you when I moved here in the apartment, for me to be approved to get it was impossible.
Mm-hmm.
The agency had their rules, and according to them, I didn't meet the requirements, so someone had to step in. And the person who did felt that they needed a copy of the keys.
Mm-hmm.
So they took the keys. They and still have those keys,
Yeah.
to the apartment. But I don't know how else to explain it. And it happened at least twice. And then I came home one day to discover that even when you have the door locked from inside with the key in the lock, someone is still able to open from the outside
Yeah. Yeah.
of the yeah of the apartment. So that's the situation, and I'm still living in that. And then the other time, like waking up to your bathroom, like just leaking and water pouring out from
Yeah.
the
So
ceiling,
uncomfortable.
and there's no reasonable explanation for why that happened. And you go to find out that the apartment was empty. At least the lady that I spoke to, because I had written a note when I heard the drilling to say that the last time I heard drilling in the apartment,
Mm-hmm.
that no, my bathroom leaked. So I wanted them to know and for them to be careful. And she said, like, no, we just moved in. We haven't been living here. So
That's
meaning that
true.
the apartment was empty. So how come the bathroom get flooded and no one was up in the apartment? And you saw the photo of what I'm talking about,
I saw it.
and at that time we are already clean. We're already clean, like and
Yeah.
pour out some of the water. So it was just like the remaining drips and stuff that we're collecting in the bucket there, while we try to manage, the situation. Yeah. What was the other thing and then the consistent attack on businesses that I try to build, investment, anything that has to do with my finances,
Yeah.
with my PayPal.
Yeah.
In the book, I show a picture of how somebody tampered with the system that, if I have 14 euros, it jumped to 1,400. I can't even get that money out just as little as that.
Mm-hmm.
So why would someone be interested in 14 euros in my PayPal account?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you also told me that there were certain information you couldn't include in the book, which like your financial situation. Would you like to include that, or you want to settle it back door? If
Oh, you mean with my bank?
yeah,
Oh yeah. So, well, yeah, I think I'm going to look more into it. But what I can say now, that there is a problem there too. And initially, I didn't really recognize it. It was frustrating, that my card, because the way it works here, you have the Gloria, how do you call it, the other card?
Mastercard.
The normal one. The IBAN, yeah, the IBAN, the one with the IBAN. Mestro. Yeah, okay. So you have the Mestro card. Sorry. Well, you have it's called the Mestro card that you can do things locally, but usually pay online, especially if you want to buy from other countries, other websites on from other countries, is kind of problematic the way it is set up. Maybe there's a way to do it, but I don't know. So the Mastercard gives you that ease that you can just use it like anywhere in the world with any kind of without any problem. But then that MasterCard was disabled. And then the bank is collecting fees every year for the usage of the card. And I have gone back and forth to ask them to enable the card, and they did not do it. I think they even sent a new one, but I don't know the point of them keep sending new cards, but it's not working. Whenever I go to ask about, fixing the problem, what I get is another card that is still not working. So that has been a problem, but I need to take my time and really look into it, because the other thing I noticed is that the fees that I get charged, maybe there's a reason for that. But I discovered online recently that there's a list in terms of the services and the charges for those services. And what I realize is that I'm being, I would, at least a number of times, I've seen very high charges, and they don't really reconcile with what I saw,
Yeah.
in the list that is online for their services. So I've already written, asking questions about those two things, about the card, about the fees. So I hope to, but I will see. So that is something I'm going to pay attention to, but I didn't discuss in the book. Yeah.
Okay, so there's so much more that you included in the book. If we talk about it, this video will go on for hours and
Yeah, and
hours.
it will be boring too.
And I will really encourage everyone to get your book, especially those who plan to
Who
travel
want to
abroad.
travel? Yeah.
To
Yeah.
properly prepare yourself, to also know how to fight for yourself, and not to feel like, since I'm a foreigner, anything that comes at me, I should just give up. No, that shouldn't be the case. So I want you to tell us.
And I would sorry to cut in, but to emphasize that you want to really keep your records. You don't want to be careless with documents, especially official documents, things that you buy. Like, find a place to keep and to organize them in a way that you can reach them, if there's a problem. Because I have spoken to a number of people who share a similar thing where, like they just have to pay because company says, a company
Yes.
says you have to pay. So they just end up paying, fees. And even though I kept my record and I still had to pay, but at least that record is still there.
Yeah.
Maybe there will come a time when I'm able to make that claim to get my money back because it was wrong every year for the electricity company that I was using at the time to just suck money from me, and the money I think had that kind of squeezing your hands,
Yeah.
to take the little pennies that when I'm even trying to keep my family, and they even threaten to take my light. So they just tell you have to pay, and they expect you to pay because they say so,
Mm.
and that is just wrong. But those are the things that I know we have to talk about, and that's the reason why I wrote the book, because it's a different thing when read in the newspaper or read online and you hear all the announcements, that oh, there are opportunities, there are work here, there are study here, there's benefits there. There are some people who having it good for them, it's working out
Mhm.
for them.
Mhm.
But like in my case, it is different.
Yeah.
But I'm a
Yeah.
person, I'm a human being as well, and I should be treated with dignity, and I understand that. So if people, don't want to do the right thing and maybe to take advantage of the fact that I'm a stranger, yeah, then I should be able to stand up because if the law says that if you're black, don't be here, then I shouldn't be here. But if the law tells me I'm welcome here, then I should be protected because it's a universal thing. And
Oh,
Germany is one country that, positions and presents itself and is proud to be a country that believes in the rule of law
yes.
and is very friendly towards immigrant. I mean, almost every year you see some kind of invitation for immigrants to come and
Yeah.
work. Yeah, so we're still looking for jobs. There's still invitation is going
I
out
know.
for
It's mind-boggling.
for people to come and work. I mean, the thing is that is, the people that run the government, that is their thing to do. But it's like in my own case, my own life, my own family, that the protection that we need, should not be taken away from us.
So, Tomian, I want you to share with us how we can get your books and tell us more of the fundraising and how can people donate to you.
Okay, so I give you the link, and
Okay.
then I also like uploaded it to my Facebook page. It's free. I mean, I wrote it, and when I decided to write it, I knew it was going to be free because if someone had that information and was selling it, I won't be looking for that information um as someone that is planning to travel. I'll
Mhm.
be looking for other things and not for information like that because I have a lot of information presented before me that is telling me all of the good things, but some of the stories that I don't get to hear, I'm not going to be looking for information like that, like how to navigate because there are positive things happening, as well.
Yeah.
So my Facebook page, I will also be able to give you that. I will give you yeah, the link to my Facebook page, the Nelson Tovian on Facebook.
Okay. Okay. So
Nelson
I'll also
Tovian on
put it in
Facebook.
the description box so that
Yeah.
everyone, and I want to encourage everyone. She invested her time. She has really expressed herself in so many ways, just exposed herself, just for us to learn and to protect ourselves as Africans traveling to a foreign country. So I want to encourage every single person to contribute the little that you have, just support her so that it would help her and motivate her to also know that what she has done, people appreciate it. You get it. So that is what I want to share with our
So,
viewers.
so I will give you the QR code to the fundraising uh,
Mhm.
page.
Yeah.
I will give the QR code. And when for those who will be moving to foreign countries and maybe you're looking for people to network with, I think one of the things I did was not taking time to kind of broaden my network and just kept stuck with my kind or people
Yeah.
that gravitated towards me. And yeah, so it would be good to broaden your network, but to also be very mindful about how much you share, because I
Yeah.
think looking back, some of the information that I shared, was used against me. In
I
some
get you.
instances, I don't want to go into the details, but I think, yeah, so like I was explaining and sharing everything, like, oh, I saw this opportunity. And I thought it would be good to share with other people because we're
Yeah.
all, immigrants and we're all kind of navigating the system. So if I know something, I should be able to share. But there's nothing wrong with sharing, but just making sure that you have people who have your back,
Yes.
because when you're in trouble and down and you see the attitude of people towards you, you can see clearly whether they ever had your back or not,
Yeah.
whether they were there for you in the first place, whether they were real friends in the first place. So I just wanted to say that because I think when you come to a new country, you really want to bond with people, you want to make
Yeah,
friends,
your
which
own community,
yeah,
those
to
from
build
your
your own community.
country.
You want to support structure, yeah, and which is a good thing, and you should try to do that, but you just need to be very mindful and like very intentional
Yeah.
and like I will add more prayerful because prayer has been the only thing that I've turned to, and I would say the good thing that happened out of this experience that I turn to my Bible more and pray more that I believe I would have done a lot of things differently if I had started that from the very beginning.
Okay. Okay. So thank you, Toby, and thank you so much for your sincerity, for your openness, for your the fact that you just sat down, decided that let me write a book, about my life and just be open to others to also read and also get something from it is really good and very kind of you. I
I'm,
will
I'm,
all the details that Tovian has stated, I'll put it in my description box. So I want you to all go to a Facebook page, go to the donation, the QR code. I'll put everything in the description box. Yes, and Tovian wanted to say something.
yeah, I maybe just another thing quickly, because sometimes when people are desperate, you have a lot of temptation. I didn't mention that in the book, but there was a time when I tried to get my children some modeling opportunity was with an organization, a business, you know, and it was supposed to be a fashion business. I checked. It was supposed to be legitimate. I mean, from what I read, but then they were asking me to send nude
Oh
photos
yes.
of my. I
Yeah.
don't know if I mentioned that if I mentioned that,
And
and I don't
also
know.
had a similar experience. Yeah, so I get what you are saying.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yes,
yeah. So just to be mindful of those kinds of things, that
yes,
sometimes
yeah,
people will prey on you.
yes. How is your life in Germany now? How is it going?
Well, still navigating, still on the journey. I won't say it has turned around. For a season, it did, and it looked like it was going. It seemed in a different direction from what I had experienced, the last couple of years. Let's say back in 2022, 2024. But now it's like there's a new thing happening. I don't even have words to describe it right now. But like I say, it's still a journey and I'm still learning. My biggest goal now is to change the city, which how do you call it? Fundraising will help me to do that. And then to also start on an initiative to be able to bring these kind of things to the surface because I'm not the only person. There are a lot of stories, we just don't hear them. And like you have your story as well. If you didn't say it, people would not know. And so as a result, we come with the wrong assumptions and expectations.
Mm, okay, so thank you once again. And so this is it, guys. Kindly like, subscribe to this channel, and don't forget, people who are amazing help others to be amazing. Thank you.